Okay, this is a strange story. I don't think you'll hear anything about this in like the main talk. I don't think any of the main like e-celebs will be talking about this. Actually, Dankula, I know will be making a video about this. There was a conference in the UK, I think up in Scotland. Oh no, in London, sorry. And for the Alliance of Responsible Citizenship Forum, and they invited a bunch of conservatard or like neo-conservatard uh, influencers to come to this conference to hear some keynote speakers, of which Curtis Yarvin was there, Count Dankula was there, some other assholes were there, and then they had an after party at a bar in London. And I happen to know secondhand that the party was a bit weird, and that for some reason I was a topic of conversation in this party. And there was like a weird air of like foreboding about how people feel about me, which I don't really I don't know how to feel about this. Um, so this Luther Blizette infiltrated a bar after an open forum. You buy a ticket, you attend the conference, and then you're welcome to go to the bar to socialize with the speakers and other people in attendance. And this guy, this article, I'm going to read like a bit of this article because I just want to point out how gay and retarded people, like, I don't know, people in general, I'll say leftists, especially this guy, because just how the way he flowerfully talks is just like so irritating that it's hard to read this. We infiltrated a tragic far-right after-party. The Alliance for Responsible Citizenship Forum, which took place last week, was a global meeting of the right, and the speakers were huge. Jordan Peterson, Nigel Farage, Kimi Badenoch, Mike Johnson, and most importantly, Sophie Winkleman, better known as Big Suze from Peep Show. I have no idea why that. I have never heard of them. I've never heard of Peep Show. I know no idea who Sophie Winkleman is. I have absolutely no idea why that's the most important person. Like most conferences, the real action would be happening off stage in the back room of the end of days bleakness of the Excel Centre in East London. Connections brewed a global network of the right and far right, stitched itself tighter together. The ambitions of Paul Marshall, the billionaire funder of the GB News and director of company behind ARC, is impressive, but the conference fell flat. Big name speakers droned on about familiar topics in familiar ways. Jordan Peterson on personal responsibility, Paul Marshall on problems with net zero, Kimi Benedoc with the project of renewing our culture. I didn't watch Big Suze. I just couldn't. And then down here, why, outside of reducing immigration, was it so hard to nail down anything specific? So this fanciful man was talking about how evil these people are and how they met together, and how there wasn't a lot of excitement. Bunch of internet people meeting up at a conference center. Yeah, I'm sure it would be like a hot and sweaty with the gyrating and you get a bunch of like neocons, and you have to remember the age gap. Like it's easy to think of people as being like 20s. But we're old now, man. Like Nick Fuentes was like 17 when he started doing his thing, but he's 26 now. Nick Fuentes has been around for like 9 years. I'm 32. A lot of people in attendance were over 40. So it's not like a young conference of like super young, like cool TikTokers together or whatever. It's like people from 20 to like 50 plus in attendance just talking about shit that they see on the internet. So yeah, it was never going to be like this hyper intense meeting, but by the way, outside of reducing immigration, why was it so hard to nail down anything specific? Well, that's kind of like the unifying factor. I'm sure that was a thing that was being discussed, but he didn't mention for whatever reason. It's kind of like if the current world order is we're going to have a policy where we just like randomly pick 10 people a day every day and set them on fire. That's like 3,650 people being randomly taken and set on fire. Statistically speaking, the chances of you winning that lottery and being set on fire is actually really, really low. But if there was a group of people opposed to this policy of setting random people on fire, and they got together and had a conference to oppose the majority in power status quo of setting people on fire. It probably would be a diversity of opinion, unified mostly by this opposition to setting people on fire. Meanwhile, people like this guy would look over and go, well, the current party supports gender rights and supports education, free education, and supports Social Security and welfare and Medicaid. It's free stuff. And we generate that revenue by the gladiatorial scenes of setting people on fire. It works out, and their odds of actually being hurt by being set on fire are very low. It's not complicated to understand this. Caesar's Legion, that's right. It's where we're headed. Anyways, I had attempted to convince Dankula to tweet out while heavily intoxicated that he loved the kiwi farms. My efforts to manifest this reality fell flat, unfortunately. So instead, I just got a bunch of pictures of people I recognize extremely drunk, which was very exciting for me. At the late hours where I was receiving this in my bed at like after midnight, looking at my phone, getting signal messages with like pictures of drunk Angloids. I'm like, yeah, looks like England. My connections are growing, chat. My connections are growing. I'm the thing that everybody knows about, but we don't like to talk about or acknowledge because he's dangerous and crazy. And fat. Let's be real. If I was a skinny queen, if I was a bad boy with an eye patch, my issues would start to resolve themselves rather expeditiously, chat. Let's see. All right. Next. This is, by the way, Nova Remedia. And this is, we infiltrated a tragic far-right afterparty. If you actually do want to read the whole thing. I cannot be asked to talk about this. I just want to talk about my story.